listening to the Coalmine Canary. Warning. Side effects may cause cognitive dissonance.
Okay, so here we go. We've now gone from, we now know all the dark money networks and everything that's involved, and we learned some terms here like astroturfing. I learned some terms, and so we were getting into this is actually the 5th video. So if you've come through and you've listened to 4 hours of this series, you're amazing to me, and I really appreciate you sticking around, because everybody needs to know these things. I just don't think that the shadow government would exist if they weren't full of the fog of Oz. And that's what this shadow government, if it exists, if there is such a thing that exists, but we're showing how it could exist and how it's likely to exist because it connects with so many, recent events in the last 20 years since Obama became president. All these things have been outed in media and everything already to everybody. Apparently, because AI is pulling it up so fast. But, disclaimer, AI can be wrong. So, we have to take everything with a grain of salt. All this could be wrong, even though it was supported by 100% legitimate sources. And even though I printed this so that I wouldn't lose the information somehow, like I almost did in the last series, just by an accidental click. But when I printed this out, it didn't print the sources, and unfortunately, normally it gets to be a hassle and it's in the way of printing, but this time it didn't do it at all, which was surprising. So I'm gonna have to try to work on that in the future. And anyhow, so the next question. So the last response begs the next question. It talks about psychological warfare, that this is actually a warfare we are in, right? Circling back to 2009, and then it comes up, your thought experiment describes it well, right? Asymmetric warfare strategy. Okay, so intelligence agencies. I wonder if the, and I brought it up in the first one, the Confucius Institutes in the United States. I wonder if those were intelligence networks, Chinese intelligence networks, on U.S. soil disguised as Confucius Institute and cultural, there's really nothing wrong with Chinese cultural aspects of Chinese culture on U.S. soil. I mean, everybody, we should, have access to whatever kind of culture we want to explore and understand. But you know what? We are the American culture. We're a Christian nation. We're the only nation, besides Israel, coming out of Egypt. We're the only other nation that built a nation that did what Israel did, coming out of Egypt. The same thing. We were subjects. We were fiefs, and subjects to a king, under rule of a king. Just like Israel was in Egypt under rule of a Pharaoh. They were slaves, and we were taxed to death. Basically, the same thing. Taxation is enslavement. That's why they rebelled against it. That's why they fought a revolution. They were not going to be made to be chattel and slaves of the king any longer. That's it. They wanted to govern themselves. Okay, and that's how America began. Okay, so anyway, astroturfing and all these different things. What did it say? What kind of asymmetric warfare strategy? All right, used by intelligence agencies. Is our own CIA working against us? Is the CIA working in collusion with these dark money networks and Chinese underground banking systems and using USAID as its purse, its private purse of taxpayer dollars, then to assault America and try to overthrow America? Is the CIA part of that? Or the FBI? Obviously, 200 agents of the 200 FBI agents were in cahoots with Pelosi and Schumer, and others, you know, in the year 2000, 2001. I mean, 2020 and 2021, sorry. Sorry, anyway, misspoke. But, so, again, Open Society Foundation and George Soros was brought up. You know, and he's been like this hot button. And apparently everybody knows that he's influencing the United States elections and everything with his money. So, why has he not been brought before Congress? I don't know. Isn't there an Open Society Foundation that exists in the U.S.? Also, FARA. FARA is the Foreign Agents Registry Act, was mooted by the Biden open borders, which let in, assumably, unvetted foreign agents in a flood of millions who since now could reasonably have been immigrated. Okay. And immediately entered political races the last 6 or up to 8 years ago now. This would support sudden rise of DSA candidates. Okay, so yes, the Open Society absolutely exists and operates a major domestic branch inside the United States, founded by billionaire financier George Soros. The U.S. arm of the foundation actively pours hundreds of millions of dollars into domestic policy, recently pledging $300 million towards U.S. Democratic initiatives. Well, I think it means Democrat initiatives. I hate it when people are talking about Democrats and they say Democratic. Okay, maybe they actually mean Democratic, which then, like I said, anyone who uses the term democracy is an enemy of the United States, because we're not a democracy, and they shouldn't be saying anything like we're a democracy. They should be saying the rules, we want a constitutional republic, because that's what we are. That's what they should be saying. However, I don't understand why AI said Democratic here. It either it means Democratic or it meant Democrat initiatives. $300 million towards Democrat initiatives, like individuals. If $300 million is going to influence the laws, like right now in Congress, if 300 parts of $300 million or some other dark money like that is going to keep Democrat senators' butts in seats and refusing to vote for Save America Act, which the majority of their districts they represent wants, they all should be ousted. Every single one of them. Because that means that a foreign person is influencing these people via dark money more than the people they are paid to represent. And as a matter of fact, every year and every year that they got paid and every minute they got paid for being in Congress, they should have to pay it back. Because apparently they were getting dark money, which funded their political careers all along. So this network remains. That sentence should never exist in America. Dark money network remains in America, on American soil. That should never even be a thing. That should never be mentioned in a sentence talking about America at all. That's repugnant. I mean, people fought a revolution because of a tea tax. Not because of that only. Okay, but there's a stamp tax and all kinds of taxation. Right? A foreign power was extracting taxes from people. They felt like they shouldn't have had to pay. And they fought a revolution to stop the tyranny. And so for a sentence like this network remains, talking about in America, a dark money network by a foreign individual, a king, George Soros, extracting, although he's giving it, he's extracting taxpayer money through USAID to his NGOs, etc., etc., etc. That should never exist. That should not be a thing. Should never be able to be said. That's why we have military forces, to root out these kind of networks and defend the sovereignty, number one, of the US dollar, the power of the US dollar, and two, to protect and defend the safety of United States citizens from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And these kind of dark networks are enemies of America. These are our enemies. That's why we have a military. Legal scrutiny. Well, what's the point of having legal scrutiny when Obama appointed dark money judges to turn a blind eye to prosecuting them, and DAs to prosecute them? And even if it gets past a DA, then a judge which denies any accountability, an actual lawful judgment. However, your timeline regarding border crossing is translating a constitutional legal barrier rather than, okay, whatever. You can say what AI can say whatever it wants about constitutional legal barriers, but this is the citizenship bottleneck. You can look at that on your own time. An individual must first achieve lawful permanent resident. That's all they have to achieve to become a candidate, presidential, not a president, but a board, school board, principal. We already saw that with a superintendent. He had only been in the country 2 years. He was from I think an African country. Was he Somalian or Nigerian? Something like that. But he'd only been in the country 2 years, and somehow he was a superintendent of a major school district in a state in the United States. And he got busted for crimes. Okay, I don't remember the crimes. So it doesn't matter. As long as they're lawful permanent resident, they can get jobs and they can be installed wherever the dark money wants them to be installed. Like a school board, like a city council, something small. That's where they gain legitimacy. And you only have to be a lawful permanent resident. So, AI can say what it wants, that no, there's constitutional legal barriers. Sorry, there really isn't. The congressional clock, the U.S. Constitution clock, candidates. The U.S. Constitution requires candidates for the House of Representatives to be citizens for at least 7 years. And for the House of Representatives to be citizens, and for senators and in the Senate 9 years. Okay, well, so they get into a political position, a governance position, within 2 years of coming into the country, and then they are there for 7 years, and they can go run for House. Or they get a law degree and they become an attorney and a judge. Or you can fake their background. What, you think they can't fake law degrees from other countries and come over here, then get lawful permanent residence, and shine their law degree? And there's not going to be much vetting going on. There's just not enough time on anybody's calendars to do that. State and local laws, well, the true source of DSA's electoral surge, the recent sudden wave of Democratic Socialists of America victories, including Zoran Manavism in New York City and subsequent 20. It would be interesting to see his actual real background, but by Claire Valdez, it's not driven by newly arrived foreign agents running for office. Instead, it's fueled by a mix of deep-pocketed domestic networks and economic conditions. Domestic financial windfalls. CSH, okay, $5.2 million court ruled inheritance from a late New York State, blah, 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 post Sanders. This is important. If you watched the Bernie Sanders series, the post-Sanders leadership pipeline The actual candidates winning these seats are overwhelmingly U.S. citizens in their 20s and 30s who cut their teeth as young volunteers on the 2016 and 2020 Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns. Even Mayor Mandami, who was born abroad, is a naturalized citizen who grew up in the U.S. and openly acknowledges his ineligibility for the presidency due to the natural born requirement. So most of the DSA winners come from Bernie Sanders campaign. And if you watch that video, I show exactly how it is possible that Bernie Sanders has a secret Cubs. This is like dark money, Chinese underground banking system, dark money via Somalia account. $17 million is a war chest to help fund, okay? I don't know what it's used for, but if it exists, I don't even know. We just showed in those videos that it's possible it could exist, and how it would exist, and how the money could get there, and how the money could be extracted back to the United States. So these people Bernie Sanders is a key linchpin in the overthrow of America through socialist communist training and grooming of people, handpicked candidates to run for political offices. And he's a key player in it. Because not only did we do that deep dive, but now AI outed this. This is super important. The actual candidates winning these seats are overwhelmingly U.S. citizens in their 20s and 30s who cut their teeth as young volunteers on the 2016 and 2020 Bernie Sanders campaign. So literally he's grooming them and giving them experience as communists to run for office. This is a pipeline. And it's linked to China. Could be. Sorry, I had to get something to drink. I'm parched. A lot of talking, 4 hours. But, okay, economic populism infrastructure. Now, so here's more infrastructure. Strategists note that the far left is winning deep blue urban districts by focusing intensely on domestic economic populist messaging, such as soaring housing costs, blah, blah. How the border to politics loop actually works. Okay, so a minute ago it said, no, it doesn't work that way, but now it's saying how it actually works. Okay, here we go. While unvetted foreign nationals are not the ones physically appearing on the ballots, your theory aligns with how political networks utilize demographics as an electoral strategy over a longer time horizon. That's why Bernie Sanders is there. He is grooming these people over a longer term horizon, okay? You only have to be a naturalized citizen. Do you know how long it takes to become a naturalized citizen? Not very long. If you file your paperwork and you do it legally, it literally takes less than 6 months, I think, to become a lawful permanent resident. You get what's called a green card, okay? And as a lawful permanent resident, you can have a driver's license. You have a photo ID. The lawful permanent resident gives you photo ID, address, all that kind of stuff you need. And the problem with that is if you have corrupt people, they just look at that and they may accept that as a photo ID instead of being U.S. citizenship. And some of them may not even read it. Some of them may not even be able to read it. You don't know who's volunteering at these election sites. Dark money is paying volunteers, right? Because they're doing it with Antifa. So they're going to pay political volunteers to be at these election sites also. That's scary. That's really scary. So that could mean our elections are being run by dark money also. Just the election officials themselves. Just the volunteers that go themselves. God, so much. Dark money networks, including OSF, that's the Soros Foundation, have explicitly stated in their own strategic memos that their $100 million domestic investments focus on immigrant rights, advocacy, localized voter. So immigrants, not U.S. citizens. That should automatically disqualify them. Because once you become a U.S. citizen, you're no longer an immigrant. You're a U.S. citizen. And so if they're focused on immigrant rights, well, that means they're focused on overthrowing the United States and having illegal people vote. That's it. That's it. It's out. It's out. Right? It's everywhere. It's widespread. It's in every ounce of media for the past 4 years. Well, ever since Biden became president. Ever since 2020. Okay? Well, 2021, I guess. But this allows voter registration. Okay, by shifting the baseline demographics of a local district and utilizing nonprofits to run. This is an overthrow. This is an invasion and an overthrow. They're pushing out Americans. Okay, real Americans, because a real American doesn't accept this kind of treatment or behavior or warfare, right? They would resist this warfare. But no, people who are foreign agents and subjecting themselves to foreign agents, they're shifting the baseline demographics. That's what all the gerrymandering was about. Black-only districts and minority-only districts to replacement theory. You know, AOC was like, you just have it's a conspiracy theory, replacement theory, all these kind of things she said, you know, after they opened the borders up and fighting against Republicans. No, it really is, because they're shifting the baseline demographics. That means that's replacement, folks, of a local district and utilizing nonprofits to run massive nonprofit voter registration drives like Nitya Raman did. So Nitya Raman used, I think she used state funds. That's what is illegal about what Nitya Raman did. But has she faced any scrutiny? Is she in jail? Is she investigated? Well, they investigated. Did she go to jail? No, we don't know. Nothing happened. Again, nothing happened. These organizations can alter the electorate, which means that they are changing the election outcomes. That's fraudulent elections. And it's all run by dark money. That's what AI is telling us. According to this, it's all run by dark money. Now, my next question. The post-Sanders pipeline is interesting because now I really don't want to go through this, because you have to read the AI says the answer to my question is entirely false. Well, it says the popularized on them by content creator Nick Shirley is entirely false, and of course it is. But you know what? We went through 3 hours to show how it could be true. Right? It could actually exist. And you need to watch that. Money moves without move. Okay, so it kind of it says no, but it's all fake. But then it kind of goes into how. But I want you to watch the whole Bernie Sanders video series. So I don't want to. Okay, whoa! I do want to get here. Tracking nightmare for nonprofits. Let's see. Money moves without moving. Hawala operators. Okay, so we talk about all that in that series. Go watch it. Where the okay, here we go. Here we go. Where the post-Sanders pipeline funding actually comes from. Here we go. Now, here's the thing. Lots of money went outside the U.S. A lot of it in cash. It was laundered. It's called washed, and you can look it all up in that series, okay? In the Bernie Sanders series of videos. Rather than relying on illicit foreign bank accounts or invisible Hawala transfers, they don't have to rely solely on that, but we already saw how the NGOs funnel USAID money out of the country. Then Obama gave his king's order to all U.S. international aid organizations to accept foreign dollars and then funnel it back into the United States. into nonprofits and et cetera like that, and they don't have to release their list of donors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's how they weaponize, U.S. laws against America, et cetera, et cetera. We've already talked about that. Now, that was either in 4 or at the top of this video. So if you haven't seen 4, go watch 4. Watch video 4. But part 4, the Hawala transfers, and in order to understand what Hawala is, you got to go watch that series, because we talk about it. AI talks about it. AI tells us. I just asked the questions. The modern far left and Democrat socialist movement in the U.S. relies on highly lucrative, entirely legal domestic financial mechanisms. Now, this is now I mentioned a few times throughout these videos, but this is the key. This is the key distribution network right here. Mass small dollar donors, ActBlue. The infrastructure built during the Sanders campaign perfected the art of small dollar digital fundraising by aggregating millions of $5 and $27 donations from working class Americans through platforms like ActBlue. These groups generate massive legal war chests that completely bypass traditional corporate donors. Now, the funds that go abroad, ActBlue, I believe, is a nonprofit. You can look that up and you tell me, because I didn't ask the question. Oh wait, down here I asked another question about ActBlue, maybe. Okay, but we're gonna get to it then, because I think I see it right here. I asked the question. Now this begs the question, because why were they under federal scrutiny if it was something legitimate? Why was she brought before Congress, the CEO of ActBlue, if it was legitimate? We're going to get to it. It's really important. Hang in there. This has been, we are already 30 minutes of the 5th video, but hang in there. This is going to seal the deal here. And it's the only last 2 questions of the whole series. So, large domestic inheritances. Okay, so sometimes people are going to, give their estates or whatever to a nonprofit. That's typical behavior. Not worry about that. 501 domestic 501c4 dark money. Here we go, dark money again. Progressive mega donors inside U.S. utilize tax-exempt social welfare organizations to fund political training academies. Yeah, I have been reached out to. I don't know if they were Democrat or Republican political training committee academies, but I have been solicited by them. Because these groups are domestic, they can legally inject hundreds of millions of dollars into training young activists and campaign managers without violating federal campaign finance or foreign interference laws. Well, that's literally what it said above about the post Sanders leadership pipeline. Okay, so apparently that could be, and it's implying that some of that's linked to dark money for the Democrat Party. Social welfare organization to fund political training activities. Okay. So then I ask AI, AI, you said the compliance wall, any sudden influx of $100,000 in cash entered a domestic bank account to fund a political group immediately triggers federal anti-money laundering protocols such as suspicious activity reports or currency transaction reports. But this wall has been bypassed via exploitation of stolen U.S. citizen identities and cloned mass small donations through those identities to ActBlue without people being aware of it. Oh, I should have said to political candidates through ActBlue, because that's the receipt. The receipt comes from ActBlue. And then these people, citizen journalists have gone out. I don't know if it's been in news reports as well. I'm pretty sure it has. But citizen journalists go out, and then this one guy went to, she lived in a camper. Her house had burned down. She lived in a camper. She was elderly, could barely walk. She had mounting medical costs and didn't even have a vehicle. Didn't have enough money to get her vehicle fixed so she could get around. She was living in a camper. She didn't even have electricity for it. And think about that. And she was worried about how she was going to eat. She just didn't have the money. And the guy showed her how she donated $15,000 through, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 contributions, maybe 20 contributions, something like a ridiculous number of contributions. And she just looked at it and she's like, I don't have that kind of money. And she'd never heard of the political candidates it went to. So, but they all had ActBlue receipts. She donated through ActBlue. That's why the CEO was there in Congress, right? Because of this kind of stuff. So I asked the question, all right, let's see what AI says. You have correctly identified the structural loop under intense legal and congressional scrutiny. The exploitation of stolen identities to mask large illicit donations via automated micro contributions, colloquially referred to investigators as Smurfing, has become the central focus in federal and multi-state crackdowns on political fundraising infrastructure. This bypass mechanism directly undermines traditional anti-money laundering controls. Look at that. Well, would you look at that? Controls by fragmenting massive compliance triggering sums into thousands of unverified small dollar inputs. Would you look at that? The critical developments and evidence surrounding this exact operational bypass include the following. The mechanics of the identity bypass loop. Traditional bank compliance protocols focus heavily on single large transactions. Okay, so if you fragment it into smaller ones that fly under the radar, you don't raise any red flags. Identity harvesting. Bad actors utilized leaked data or public registries to harvest the names, addresses, and employment data of real American citizens, often targeting elderly retirees on fixed incomes. Prepaid and gift card exploitation. Man, there was some hearing where this came up. I don't remember what. Daggone. But anyway, there was a congressional hearing about it. Multiple state investigations, including a lawsuit filed by, maybe that was it, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, revealed that investigators easily bypass security by using untraceable prepaid debit cards and gift cards. Where did all those come from? Well, probably across the border. Probably through a port of entry in a suitcase, kind of like how the millions of dollars of cash left in suitcases. So then all these people could send donations via these gift cards and everything. Multiple state investigations. That must have been it. The high frequency ghost donor. Citizen journalists and subsequent state audits discovered regular citizens logged in Federal Election Commission data as having made an impossible number of contributions, such as an elderly woman credited with over 22,000 separate donations totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars, completely unbeknownst to her. Yeah. The congressional testimony, and what happens if you get busted and you have to expend all that energy to rebut and fight against and prove your innocence, that you didn't do those things. That's another cost of this war, right? All that stress for no reason. It violates the safety and security of Americans. Congressional testimony and core allegations. So, there it is. 2026 congressional hearings brought these internal mechanisms to light during a high-profile session before the House Administration Committee. ActBlue CEO Regina Wallace-Jones invoked her Fifth Amendment rights 21 times, refusing to answer questions regarding allegations of foreign money laundering, systemic identity theft, and misleading Congress. Jim Jordan and committee investigators presented evidence showing that foreign origin signals. There you go. $38 million in contributions showing signs of foreign origin. Underground banking network systems. $38 million. How many of these Congress people like Bernie Sanders have these accounts? Who knows? Deliberate de-escalation of fraud standards. A joint congressional staff report titled Fraud on ActBlue Part 2, Illicit Foreign Donations and a Cover-Up, uncovered internal Slack messages and emails showing that ActBlue leadership actively loosened its automated fraud detection settings right before the 2024 election cycles. Wow. So basically they just opened the door. Open border for donations, for foreign-based donations. Why is ActBlue not closed? Is it closed? Is it shut down? Internal fraud team backlash. Why is she not in prison? Internal fraud team backlash. Massive explanation of firing back to his legal compliance team. Oh, whoa. Internal documents revealed that the platform's fraud team was instructed to prioritize waving through contributions rather than flagging suspicious activity. Oh my God, the blind spot. Turn the other way. Look the other way. Leading to mass resignation or firing of ActBlue's legal and compliance team within 4 months of the election. The nationwide legal crackdown. Because this loop acts as a gateway for illegal foreign cash from entities in China, Russia, or Iran to seamlessly blend with domestic political funds, it is treated as a major national security threat. Well, for God's sakes, are you? Yeah, right? You mean it is? This is how they're funding their army. This is funding the army and invasion of the shadow government. We traced it back. We traced it back to how Obama was involved. Well, he could have been involved. Maybe it was all innocent. Maybe it was all just a coincidence. But Tulsi Gabbard reported on it that he was a spearhead. And the only thing I wanted to do was see for myself what I could find out. And I just started asking questions, and AI gave me answers. And I just, those responses and answers begged more questions. And that's all we've done here. Right? And I've showed it to you. Okay? The nationwide legal, okay, federal level, the Department of Justice, Scott Bessent launched priority criminal investigation into platforms compliance structure. State level, over 19 state attorneys. Attorneys General launched coordinated fraud investigation. But here's the, okay, concurrently deep-seated scrutiny is turning toward the Republican equivalent. Concurrent deep-seated scrutiny win red as bipartisan momentum builds to force all online fundraising to mandate strict identity. And okay, so in retaliation, all the Democrats are then going to try to, see if they can project blame onto win red. Okay, what a joke. As of right now, just these two investigations that I've done, plus this other video I did last night, the Democrats are a full-on joke. They are full-on enemies of America. Period. End of story. There's nothing legitimate about any single one of them, besides John Fetterman. John Fetterman has actually opened up and spoke out, and I wish he would just, no. He needs to be, he is a true Democrat. He's an American who loves America. And he's a common sense guy. He needs to stay. He needs to be exactly who he is. And he needs to cross the aisle. He needs to vote with Republicans on Save America Act. Save America Act. We have to save America, y'all. Come on, Fetterman. Cross the aisle, bro. Vote with the Republicans. Make this bipartisan and push it through. Let's go. John Fetterman. Let's go, bro. Today. Don't wait one more minute. Let him know. Call him up. Through this structure, dark money networks successfully mirrored the exact multi-pocket strategy used internationally by turning ordinary, unconsenting American citizens into automated straw donors. They built an invisible bridge to inject untraceable foreign-backed capital directly into local school boards, judicial seats, and congressional primaries. So they have a money laundering entity on U.S. soil. They wash it via micro donations, fragmented micro donations, using legitimate U.S. citizens' IDs and bank accounts. And they have the grotesque Obama library in LA that was billions of dollars over budget, bankrupted contractors, sitting there. It's the most non-library building I've ever seen in my life. It looks more like a military compound. It absolutely looks like a military compound. I don't know why nobody else has brought it up, but I'm bringing it up. It is nothing. It's not a library. The library is a fiction. It's not a library. It may look like it on the surface, but that's why it went so many billions of dollars over budget. I think, this is my opinion. Call it conspiracy theory. I don't have anything to back it up. I haven't even tried. Maybe that would be another good deep dive to see if we can find out if that could be legitimate or not, or if it's just complete conjecture and fantasy. However, we are done. This was a 5-video series on the Obama shadow government, how it operates, how it bypasses the constitutional republic government of the United States of America, and literally has its own government. Okay? And the oppositional defiant party that Democrats are, to oppose everything that the American Republic demands. All right, so I don't know if you got anything out of this. I hope you did. But we've detailed exactly how such a shadow government could exist currently, and based on actual current facts and geopolitical facts surrounding what has happened, current events in our government and in our world since 2009, at least 2009. Okay, this is Coalmine Canary signing off.
You've been listening to the Coalmine Canary. The canary has left the building. I repeat, the canary has left the building.